Best place to retire in Malaysia. This is Dan of Vagabond Awake, the YouTube channel for Vagabond Buddha. We just completed a one-year tour of Southeast Asia. We surveyed the top spots in Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Cambodia. We head to the Philippines next week. I've been to Laos, Myanmar, and Indonesia on previous tours. Today I will tell you my top 3 favorite places to retire in Malaysia. After I tell you my top 3, I will tell you why you should listen to me, what is my ranking methodology, and how to determine your top 3 according to your lifestyle and needs. Next week, I'll tell you my favorite retirement destinations in all of Southeast Asia, not just Malaysia. The week after that, I will tell you my favorite retirement destinations in the world. Okay, here we go. Here are my personal top 3 favorite places to retire cheap in Malaysia. Number 1, Kuala Lumpur. Number 2, Penang. Number 3, Malacca. Now that you know my top 3 favorites in Malaysia, let me explain why they are my favorites. I have ranked these 3 according to my preferences as a cultural explorer, but you might be more interested in other criteria like active adventures and rural self-reliance. In that case, I recommend other destinations below. But let me explain the differences between these 3 preferences. But first, a little about why you should listen to me. My job has allowed me to travel the world since 2007. I've lived in or visited 65 countries so far. I am the opposite of a tourist. Instead of living in my home country and traveling 2 weeks per year, I do the opposite. I live outside my home country all year and go home 2 weeks per year to see my family. I stay in each foreign country for a month or more, sometimes 2 or 3 months. And when I do leave a foreign country, I don't fly home. I move forward to another foreign country. I almost never buy round-trip tickets. I move forward, not backward. I'm not a tourist. This is a lifestyle. I live like a local all over the world. I like to rent furnished apartments and I love to cook. I know what groceries cost because I buy them. I like to stay in charming, walkable city centers and walk everywhere. My life has taught me things that might be valuable to you. I learned that I could retire on half as much money as I thought I would need in the USA. Even better, I learned that living internationally 11 plus months of the year was more exciting, more interesting, and more fun than hanging out in my home country. So in 2016, I started Vagabond Buddha to share this information with you. I've already published more than 50 Retire Cheap reports all over the world. I travel all over the world and pick the best places in the world to retire cheap. Today, I'm ranking the best places to retire in Malaysia, but your favorite place in Malaysia might be different than mine. What attracts me to one place may not be interesting to you. So along with my ranking of favorite places, I'm going to do 2 other things that may be helpful to you. First, I've written detailed Retire Cheap reports about each place. If you know each report's reasoning, you'll be able to adjust my favorite more closely to your own unique style and needs. Second, I ranked the places in Malaysia according to 3 different ranking systems. I intend to give you enough information so you can reorder my favorites based upon your needs, not mine. By bubbling the best ones to the top, you'll be able to eliminate many from your short list. That will save you time and money when you take a retirement tour to investigate further. Let me explain the 3 different ranking criteria I use to bubble the best ones to the top. My ranking system. I'm a city guy that loves culture. I like museums, art galleries, live music, international foods, street art, youth culture, the university atmosphere, and public transportation. I prefer to live in areas where the cultural experiences are walkable from where I live. I call someone like me a cultural explorer. Other people prefer action sports like mountain or rock climbing, surfing, wind or kite surfing, riding horses, zip lines, snowboarding, skiing or skydiving, rock climbing. I call someone like that an active adventurer. Other people enjoy growing their own organic food, living in rural areas with some distance from their nearest neighbor, and studying survivalist techniques. I call this rural self-reliance. We're not all the same, so I'm providing information to help you find your own best personal place in Malaysia. Okay, now that you know my criteria for ranking the best places, here are the retirement places we ranked in Malaysia. Top places to retire in Malaysia for cultural explorers. That's my type. I've already told you that I am a cultural explorer. Now let me explain why these are my top 3. Kuala Lumpur, retired cheap. There are 2 kinds of cultural exploration. One is more historical in nature. Historical culture is about what happened in the past and how that has influenced the society today. That would include architecture, the arts, music, religion, archaeological sites, etc. This shows up in museums, written history, archaeology, and oral storytelling. Kuala Lumpur is technically the youngest of my top 3 in terms of historical culture. KL was founded in 1857 in the Ampang area when a group of Chinese Malaysians started a tin mine. Thus, it does not have the ancient stone-walled colonial era structures that you'll find in my other 2 favorites, Penang and Malacca. But it does have the modern cultural amenities that cultural explorers expect, such as symphony, live music, performing arts. There are literally hundreds of great restaurants in Kuala Lumpur, has amazing international airport, so all of Southeast Asia and the world is reasonably priced flight away. Plus, there are several neighborhoods in KL where you could live without ever having to get into a car. 3 examples would be the Petronas Towers area, the Bukit Bintang area, and Bangsar. Once in any of these 3 areas, you are walking distance to all necessities like movies, malls, and restaurants, from super expensive to super cheap. Plus, KL has an amazing transportation system that you can access using Google Maps. You could easily live here without buying a car. KL is the capital of the largest city in Malaysia with over 7 million people within the metro area, but it's also one of the better environmentally managed large cities in Southeast Asia. KL is also the cultural, financial, economic, and political center of Malaysia. KL is the 10th most visited city in the world in 2017 and has 3 of the world's 10 largest shopping malls. 3 of the 10. KL was also ranked the 70th most livable city in the world and 2nd most livable Southeast Asian after Singapore. Grab our Retired Cheap report for KL for details about cost of living, things to do, and whatnot. Okay, number 2, Penang Retired Cheap report. Georgetown is the capital of Penang State. Georgetown is located on an island that you can access by ferry or bridge. Penang State is more historically interesting than KL, with the earliest human remains dated 6,000 years ago. The British arrived in the 18th century offering military protection to the Sultanate. The Brits kept the island until Malaysia's independence, but reneged on the promise of protection. The Brits later combined Penang with Malacca and Singapore to create the Straits Settlement of Britain. The Straits Settlements were officially made into British colonies, which increased investment in education, infrastructure, and healthcare. Once a colony, intellectuals and authors started living here in Penang, such as Rudyard Kipling, Somerset Maugham, and Sun Yat-sen. The island was taken during World War II, but when the Japanese surrendered in 1945, Penang was the first city in Malaysia to be liberated. In 1948, British colonial Penang was merged into the Federation of Malaya. The Malay nation preferred Kuala Lumpur over Penang. So resource-wise, Penang fell into disrepair. Georgetown revitalized its cultural heritage starting in 2000 and was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2008. Today it's recognized as one of the most interesting tourist destinations in Southeast Asia. Today Penang is known for spicy Malaysian foods and charming colonial era buildings with a rich cultural heritage. Colonial era Georgetown is totally walkable. If you need to go anywhere else, they have a great public transportation system. We've used it and it's quite good. We found a bunch of odds and ends happening in the Time Out magazine for Georgetown, Penang area. There are art galleries listed, things to do, music and nightlife, arts and entertainment. The canteen in China House Restaurant is still listed as the premier live music forum, the same as my last visit. The China House is listed in the 50 things to do in Penang. Of course, you are on an island with jungles surrounded by water full of fish and all that implies. The number one attraction here is finding the best mama's or neighborhood restaurant in town for a $2 meal. That's US. Once you taste the amazing local foods, you'll have a hard time convincing yourself to pay $8 to $10 in the tourist restaurants. Grab our Retire Cheap report for Penang, link provided for more details. Okay, number three, my number three or third favorite place to retire in Malaysia, Malacca. Malaysia has been considered a top retire cheap in paradise country for years. Malaysia is known for spicy foods and charming colonial era buildings with a rich cultural heritage. All of this is true in Malacca also. Malacca also includes a focus on the arts and culinary choices and as such is growing up to be a distinct competitor for Penang and KL, the other two big tourist spots in Malaysia. Like Penang, Malacca has many of the cultural amenities described in Penang because it was part of the British Straits settlement. But it also has a few hundred years of Dutch settlements that predate the British. And even before the Dutch, there was a Hindu ruler here starting from 1402, just a few decades after Columbus sailed the blue. The Vietnamese even attacked once in the 15th century and castrated all of the men. Malacca is a medium-sized town with almost as much to do as Penang. There are movies, malls, long walks, some live music, and many restaurants to check out. Beautiful old architecture to admire and a bunch of really nice people. There are two large outdoor markets here, including the biggest on Yonkers Street. There are a bunch of English-speaking people here. It's taught in schools. We saw signs for cooking classes, art classes, and dancing. This would be a great place for people that are most comfortable in a medium-sized city. Before settling on which city in Malaysia to retire, we recommend that you do an investigative visit. Here is a link to our Tour Malaysia for Cheap report, link provided. Just click below this video for that. Okay, here's how I believe an active adventurer would order the best places to live in Malaysia. Top 5 places to retire in Malaysia for active adventurers. I picked where to tour in Malaysia based upon my interest in cultural exploration. So I had to find out the relevance of each place with respect to popular adventure sports. I did some online research. Here are the the results of my online research. Some of the spots suggested for adventure are up to 50 minutes away from the below listed places in the table. There's a table here on the web page. Just click the link in the notes below this YouTube video to see this active adventures table and the ranking. The sports are ranked, the sports considered are mountain biking, wind or kite surfing, whitewater rafting, surfing, hiking, scuba, rock climbing, and kayaking. Okay, here are the best places for active adventurers based upon the above table. Number 1, Borneo. Borneo, Malaysia includes whitewater rafting, hiking, scuba, rock climbing, and kayaking. Number 2, Langkawi Island includes mountain biking, wind or surf kiting, hiking, scuba, and kayaking. Number 3, within an hour of Kuala Lumpur, there's 4 active adventure sports: mountain biking, wind or kite surfing, hiking, and rock climbing. And number 4, Cameroon Highlands. Cameroon Highlands has the active sports of mountain biking, whitewater rafting, hiking, and kayaking. There are many other cities on the table which I have listed based on my research. I have visited Borneo, Langkawi, and Cameroon Highlands before writing this best place to retire in Malaysia report, and they're on the table. But it did not occur to me that people might want to retire in any of these places at the time I was there in 2016. I have much of the data about these places, so I may decide to write retire cheap reports on them if people express an interest in this information. Of course, if you are only interested in 1 or 2 of the above listed sports activities, you would focus only on the places in the table where those sports are occurring. Okay, here's where I estimate that people interested in rural self-reliance would want to live in Malaysia. Top 2 places to retire in Malaysia for rural self-reliance. Number 1, Cameroon Highlands. The soil around Cameroon Highlands appears rich in nutrients, and there is ample rain to support many kinds of crops. You'll need to study the climate that the fruits and vegetables you want to grow survive best. But the terrain around Cameroon Highlands and the environment seem ideal for those interested in growing organic fruits and vegetables. Plus, there are enough foreigners roaming around the area, so you will not stick out like a sore thumb when you are wandering about this part of Malaysia. You may be able to find land that is not too close to your neighbors here. Okay, number 2, Borneo. Borneo has the highlands like you will find in Cameroon. In fact, the tallest mountain in all of Malaysia is on Borneo. But it also has a sea level land. It's a large body of land with sea level land that may be more useful for growing other kinds of crops. But you may stick out like a sore thumb here, since there are not as many Westerners in this part of Malaysia. Okay, retirement places ranked in Malaysia. The places we ranked for best retirement in Malaysia include Kuala Lumpur, Penang, Malacca, and the Perhentian Islands. There are links to retire cheap reports with all sorts of details: best restaurants, best area to stay, things to do, walking tours, nightlife. They're all in these reports. Just click the links. If we missed anywhere of interest to you, please let us know for future visits, or if you want data on any of the places we mentioned that's not presently in a retire cheap report. We'll do our best to provide that to you. Subscribe to Vagabond Buddha or our YouTube channel to receive future posts about the best places to live or retire cheap all over the world. If you want to know how I was able to travel the world for 13 years, there's a video here on the web page you can watch. Just click the link in the notes below this YouTube video to find out how. This is Dan of Vagabond Buddha. Thank you for stopping by. The world is your home. What time will you be home for dinner?